and everything arranged here.
Excellent. Hey, it's my good friend, Master Distiller Chris Morris, and we're talking about King of Kentucky and so many great things. And one of the things I want to be sure I mention as we start this interview here tonight, Chris, is it's been 25 years since the Woodford Reserve Distillery has been open, and since you have been with the brand. We celebrated that this week, so happy 25th to you.
Well,
And
thank you
Woodford.
very much. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah. Very, very exciting news. What's it been? 25 years. What's it been like?
Oh, it's been like a blink of an eye. It seems like it was just yesterday, and how we've expanded our family from our core, our wonderful Woodford Reserve Kentucky Straight Bourbon, to, as you know, adding double oaked Kentucky Straight Bourbon, and then rye, malt, wheat, Masters Collection, Distillery Series, Woodford Reserve Baccarat, becoming the first and only official bourbon of the Kentucky Derby. The list goes on and on. All that's occurred, and it seems, again, like the blink of an eye.
And 25 years ago, you started with the Woodford. As you mentioned, so many accomplishments that no one's ever done that you all have been able to do. When you think back and you think about those thoughts as you all opened Woodford, would you have ever imagined how popular bourbon would have gotten? I mean, as it's gotten more popular, what have been your thoughts?
Well, that's a really interesting question, because when the late Owsley Brown came up with the concept of what is now Woodford Reserve and put money behind it, a lot of people thought he and Brown-Forman were crazy, because bourbon was in the midst of the long-term decline. Distilleries were closing. Bourbon wasn't cool anymore. And to do what we did seemed like, again, to be the height of craziness. And it was one of those turning points.
Right.
The entry of Woodford Reserve into the world energized the bourbon industry, set the signal that we're not done yet. And as a result, everybody started piling on, and look at where we are today. So Woodford Reserve played a significant role in what we now are all benefiting from, the resurgence in the popularity of bourbon whiskey, American whiskey in general.
I mean, I'm thinking it must have been, if the thoughts were, hey, these people are, slightly crazy, do they really know what's going to happen? There must have been, and there still is excitement, but there must have been some real excitement in, like, hey, we're gonna show the world what we can do here. I mean, that must have been fun to be back then, to be a part of that kind of energy.
It really was. A lot of pride was involved. Kentuckians, our company, Brown-Forman, was founded on Old Forester in 1870. We're a Kentucky bourbon company at our very roots. Our headquarters are still in Kentucky, and 151 years now. A lot of pride, and it's part of our culture, part of our fabric, and we weren't going to give it up without a fight.
Absolutely. And as we're sipping on today, King of Kentucky, I mean, that goes back 14 years, which is a little more than, I guess, half the life of the 25 we're celebrating. Slightly more than half the life. Was there a point that that you can like an event, a moment, a story, something where you look back and said, "Ooh, something is different here." This, as we call it, the boom or the revolution. What was that point where you realized that, hey, things are really getting a lot better?
Well, there's a lot of points, but one thing really sticks in my mind is when we introduced at Derby the $1,000 mint julep program from Woodford Reserve to raise money for charity. And that was still when bourbon was declining. We hadn't turned the corner, but there was interest, definitely interest. And $1,000 mint juleps got us a spot on Saturday Night Live, of course, ridiculing us in Churchill Downs. What's next? $100 hot dogs. But like, wow, when you get on Saturday Night Live with a mint julep, that says people are watching. That was a lot of fun.
That's good. So they were making some jokes about it, and all of a sudden you realized the
Yes.
word's out there.
Yes.
They probably even helped you sell a few more that year.
Oh, maybe they did. Maybe they did.
That is so cool. Well, a big congrats to you all. We can't wait to see what the next 25 look like. And again, the bourbon we are tasting today is the King of Kentucky. Show us that bottle. Yeah, I got a great sample here. I'm thrilled to be tasting King of Kentucky here with you. A single barrel. It's been several years you all have been doing this one. This one is big on flavor. It's very old, single barrels, beautiful proof. What are we tasting here? This one actually, this is now I have batch 7. The proof depends on the bottling, 125 to 135. I think what I have is 130. This is amazing. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so this is the King of Kentucky, and that's not us bragging that this is the King of Kentucky bourbons. We like to think so, but that's not where the name comes from. I got one of our horse racing prints behind me. This brand dates back to 1886, and it was named after the sport of kings,
Right.
Horse racing. So this was created by a gentleman, long gone, of course, who had a distillery, and it went out of business during Prohibition. Another brand owner took it over. And in 1936, Brown-Forman purchased the trademark King of Kentucky. And we kept it alive for many years, but retired it in the late 1960s, early 1970. The date's not exact. So it was a good old horse. It was rode for a long time, then put away to pasture. We brought it back out of pasture, and but in a new configuration. It was never a single barrel. It was never as heavily matured as this new version is. But it's bringing back a little bit of our history, which is fun and ties in with our love of horse racing, of course. And it is a single barrel, as you note, Tom. So the taste notes that you and I can share this morning, because I'm going to be tasting out of the same little sample bottle that you received through our media kit. Every single barrel tastes different.
Right.
Every single barrel will have a different proof presentation. You noted the range. You might have 130.3, 129.8. We have the proof of that individual barrel handwritten on the bottle, on the label, of course. And that's why it's a little hard to talk about the flavors of individual single barrels. And we have actually 2 production dates. So they're not all from the same production date.
Okay.
They're very close. They're just about 2 weeks apart. These barrels are either from December the 6th of 2006 or December the 18th of 2006. So again, that 12-day separation from back in 2006. The grain recipe is 79% corn, 11% rye, and 10% malted barley. So we have more of a corn forward. It's our most corn forward bourbon recipe, and a proprietary strain of yeast, as you would expect from Brown-Forman. So live yeast culture, and barrels made at our own Brown-Forman cooperage. So it's a big, bold whiskey, as you noted before we went live here. This is big.
This is huge. Cheers. Yeah. And cheers to the King of Kentucky, and cheers to you, Chris, and all you've done. This is beautiful. Again, this is around 130 proof. And immediately, while there is strong, very strong nose as I'm sipping on it as well, to me, it drinks lower. I mean, you can tell it has proof, but it drinks much lower than 130 proof. There would be some bourbons that I would have at 130 proof that would be, extremely hot. This isn't. This drinks, though I'm sure the suggestion could be you could add water, ice to it. This drinks lower. Why is this, in your opinion, why is this drinking so much lower?
Well, I think it's very typical of our Brown-Forman family, Woodford, Old Forester, and King of Kentucky, is the fact that we make our barrels. Right. And again, that's as you know, very special.
Right.
And we age our wood out of doors for lengthy periods of time, which helps remove some of the acidity, the tannins, which gives our barrels a nice, our whiskeys a nice smooth character. We
Right.
also toast our barrels prior to charring, which helps elevate the formation of sugars, which will caramelize in the charring process. And that sugar also helps soften the impact of alcohol on the palate. So we do certain things that others don't. And plus, we heat cycle our warehouses.
Right.
These barrels were all stored at the Brown-Forman Distillery in Shively, Kentucky, in brick warehouses built to be heated in the winter. And that continual maturation, again, the breathing as we expand and contract the barrel through the heating and cooling of the warehouses really helps develop a lot of viscosity, richness, fruit notes, everything that counters that sharpness you would expect from either barrel acid or the ethanol hit itself.
Beautiful lingers on this too. I mean, as I'm tasting it, that sweetness from the corn comes through, but the sweetness is so well balanced by the barrel. And of course, a little bit higher corn recipe for those of you that love Woodford, just like me, a little higher corn recipe. So some of those corn forward, beautiful candied caramel corn notes, but also with that age, just something so delicate, elegant. It really goes a lot of places. And again, the linger, it's a long finish.
Yes, it is. And I also get a lot of nice, rich fruit character, and that's from that long maturation, the heat cycle maturation. And
It's very special.
Those big sweet aromatic notes are huge, real rich.
Yeah, this is one that's just fun to nose for a while. And again, for those of you that are watching, take a moment, like this video, share it, comment down below if you've tried King of Kentucky, or tell us what your favorite Brown-Forman or Woodford bourbon might be. If you're saying, hey, maybe I haven't seen this bottle before, I've only heard about it. Well, this is fairly limited production. There's only 2,700 bottles on this production. This is pretty rare to find, right?
It is, and with the exception of a few small shipments out of state, most stays in Kentucky. It's our thanks to the bourbon consumers of Kentucky that that kept us going all those years. You know, when bourbon was on decline, thank goodness Kentuckians stayed with us, and we really Brown-Forman likes to keep a lot of a ratio of whatever we make here in the Commonwealth as a thank you.
Right, absolutely, very special. You can find a few other places, but mainly in Kentucky. And again, this was laid down in 2006. So you're thinking back on that, Chris. You're thinking back to 2006, still slightly before really things were beginning to pick up then. But again, this is a bourbon you can say was laid down still when things really hadn't started. The bourbon boom, as we know it, hadn't exactly started back up, right?
No, in fact, 2006 was about when the curve downward flattened. So we were in no form or fashion in a boom. That's for sure.
It's fun. It's actually, to think about, as I was asking you, what your thoughts were back then, and as we've progressed. But to think about this bourbon itself, if it had no thought of bourbon of it becoming probably 14 years old. I mean, this wasn't likely laid down to age for 14 years, was it?
Yeah, absolutely not. We, Brown-Forman, through our long history, have never really advocated age statements. We like to select barrels and bottle when the flavor has to our palates reached a peak of perfection, and out it goes. And certainly with the heat cycling process that we go through, long aged whiskeys don't do well in that type of environment because they're evaporating quite quickly from the barrel. And we're getting barrels of King that have one case of whiskey in them.
Wow.
One case of whiskey from a financial standpoint under the old models, that's crazy.
That is.
We're doing this because we have really monitored these barrels. We've reserved them as they get older. We winnow them out, and these are very special, very, very special. And,
Yes.
and that's why you're not going to see much older barrels from us than this, just because the heat cycling will not allow that.
So the oldest barrels that might be, whether it's this recipe or other recipes, might be 14, 15, but in your warehouses, you don't have anything much beyond 15.
Correct.
Do you remember the oldest one you've ever tasted from your warehouse? Would it be about 15, 16? What would it be, you think?
I did. I hit some 17-year-olds, and highest proofs I've ever encountered. One barrel I remember was 180.1 proof. The other was 180.2 or so. There was very little liquid left in the barrels. It was absolutely undrinkable. It was destroyed, was not used. That was a good illustration of where you need to pick those barrels as they go forward.
You don't want it to go much past this 14, 15, but here it's something so special and something so unique for those of us that get to try it, something so beautiful. And I think it's such a great example of that older bottling of what that mash bill can be. It's something so unique. And again, if you can find a bottle, or if you ever get a chance to try this at a bar or restaurant, definitely try this. You said some of these would only hit, would it be a 12 bottle case? You would get a 12 bottle case out of one barrel, or would it be six?
Six.
Oh, even six. So that we're talking about very little.
Very left. Yes.
Yeah, that's something so unique. King of Kentucky. It was released late September, early October. For the most part, you can find it. If you can find it, look for it now, right?
Yes, it should be. I don't know where it is. Hopefully
hopefully it's found the place to all those that'll enjoy it. And again, look for the other King of Kentuckys. You'll be doing it every year as a limited release. So many other great releases from Woodford, as we mentioned, the rye, the wheat, the malt, the bourbon, the double oak. I love those. And next month, we can't tell you too much yet, but next month we'll be seeing the special collection you do every year, right?
Yes, the Masters Collection will have its annual release, and it will be another unique whiskey.
Yeah, can't tell you what it is yet, but we're pretty excited about this one.
Oh yes, it's going to. I'm sure shake some things up, but we expect that and look forward to it.
It's going to shake some things up. Be watching Bourbon Blog. We'll bring Chris back on when the Masters Collection comes out. We'll taste that. But Chris, again, congrats on 25 years. Big congrats to you and Woodford and the Brown-Forman family, and congrats on King of Kentucky. It's the single barrel. Be looking for it. Beautiful proof. What we're drinking at it is 130 proof. It will range between, is it 125 and 135, right around there?
That's the range we filed with the federal government. So little individual barrels will be in that range.
Right around there. When you're drinking higher proof bourbons, I guess it would depend on the actual recipe, but what's a proof that you just like in general? If there's a higher proof, is there a higher proof that you tend to aim for when you're just sipping yourself?
Well, this is a great example of where this is a response to a range of consumers who want high proof.
Right.
And so to make that market niche Brown-Forman represented possible, we have King of Kentucky and we have Woodford Reserve batch proof. Right. I prefer not to drink at this high proof.
Okay.
We sample barrels at this high proof, but I much prefer the 90 to 100 proof range,
right.
Which is what bourbon was historically presented at. And there's a reason for it. It's much more drinkable. So for a high proof like this, outside of a couple of sips that you and I are sharing, I'll put an ice cube in this.
Have an ice cube, let it do its thing.
Yes.
Are you surprised in some ways that higher proof bourbons have become the last 2 or 3, 4 years more popular? I mean, that they really. I mean, I guess they really have from what we've seen.
Yeah, of course, it's a to a small audience, and I'm not surprised because single malt Scotch has had high proof or cask strength for
Right.
years, and so there's a whiskey segment out there that has long appreciated this, and now we're in that game as well.
Now you're in it, and we can try it with King of Kentucky. And again, Chris, so good to see you tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
Hopefully,
Tom.
I'll see you in person soon for a sip. And congratulations on this release, my friend.
Okay, thank you so much. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, Chris. And thanks, everybody, for watching.